importante. Now is the moment of the table, the panel, about enterprises, technologies and the service for the smart city, enabling technologies for future mobility. I call here the moderator, Uri Bornstein, Senior Advisor of DTA. Prego.
Hello, everybody. My name is Uri Bornstein. I'm a senior advisor for DTA and representing them in Israel. In Israel, what we do is working closely together in order to establish collaboration between Apulian, Italian, and Israeli companies and academic institutions, stressing on drones mainly. My personal introduction to the drone industry was back in 1996 when I was certified as a UAV operator. And other than the fact it makes me feel a bit old, it's also, I think it provides me a kind of historical perspective on the evolution of the drone industry, starting from the early days where there were only, I would say, military or intelligence applications to what we are discussing here today also in this event, both in terms of the technology and also with respect to the use cases, the civil use cases that are actually ongoing. Our panel today is about enabling technologies for future mobility. And when I thought about this subject, about this topic, I had in mind what's under the hood of the revolution in smart mobility and future mobility. And so today we have five actually distinguished panelists. Four of them are here with me and will be on stage in a minute. And we'll have one in Zoom. And all five of them represent companies that are involved in actual development of what we call enabling technologies. And during the panel, we're going to explore some of the some kind of peripheral aspects of the development of the technology. Some of the topics were already discussed during previous panels. Some of them even in the previous panel, but most of them yesterday. But I think that although it was already discussed, there are still a lot to talk about. And what will be kind of unique with this panel is that we're going to have the perspective or the angle of the companies that are actually involved in the development. So we'll try to explore and ask them how do they see things from their side. So without further ado, I would like to call them on stage. First, I would like to call Antonio Fiorentini from Exprivia. Antonio heads the open innovation in the company. In this role, Antonio deals with channeling the group's innovation in order to generate business opportunities. Antonio holds a master's degree from University of Bari, and he defines himself as a huge fan of the most strange and unusual technologies. His words. So we're going to explore that a little bit. Welcome on board. Next, I would like to call Matteo Scopelliti from Team TIM. Okay. Matteo is going to join us in Zoom, I hope, in a minute. I'll introduce him just before. Matteo is a product marketing manager, a part of 5G and IoT enterprise marketing group of Team. Hi, Matteo.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I hope we found you well.
Yeah, Yeah, thank you. Not at the perfect condition, let me say, and I'm really sorry I can't be there.
Oh, we're happy to have you anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next panelist is already a celebrity here in this event based on his yesterday appearances. I would like to call Peter Stirat from Skyports. And for those of you who weren't here yesterday, Peter heads the business development for survey and surveillance application for Skyports drone service business. Welcome aboard, Peter. Our next member is Gianpaolo Conte, and he works for a very small company. Most of you don't know, I'd say. The name of the company is Leonardo. Please write it down. One day they're going to be huge. Gianpaolo is a program manager for the Urban Air Delivery Program under Leonardo's Unmanned System Unit. He holds a Master of Science degree in aerospace and a PhD in computer science. Gianpaolo also has over 20 years of experience with UAV systems, and he published over 20 scientific publications on UAS technologies. So welcome aboard. Our last but not least panelist is Alberto Iovino from ENAV. Alberto heads the operational support department and in charge of ATM-UTM integration with D-Flight. I think it's a very interesting position for our panel, so we'll stick to that. And we have distinguished members of, I would say, a very representative companies that deals with developing enabling technologies. And before we start digging into questions, first of all, when we talk about the future of mobility and the vision that is related to that, this is something that is a bit amorphic sometimes, or blurb. So just in order for us to have a kind of a frame for the conversation that we're going to have, I would like to ask you to describe the vision of future mobility, the way you see it from the eyes of the companies, okay? So that will give us a kind of a head start. So let's start from the end and go in that direction. So please.
Thank you, Uri, and good afternoon, I guess I should say, everybody. Thanks for inviting me here. Please allow me to quote Professor Di Scioscio's quote on Oriental wisdom. We do live interesting times. What we're dealing with today and yesterday and in the whole Transbeyond 2022 this year, in my view, is something which is the arrival of new transport means, which, just like other transport means which arrived in the past, is going to change not only the transportation world, but the world as a whole. And this is because this new means of transport is going to a crucial part of the way we now organize moving people and things, which is moving people and things by exploiting only exactly the amount of energy which is needed, which is something that the current model does not do. We waste huge amounts of energy with transport means stuck with surface vehicles in crowded cities, which are completely paralyzed by the current transportation model. So basically, in ENAV, we are holding right now since years now, and we encompass different companies which are ENAV itself, which provides air navigation services to manned traffic, legacy aviation, and we have D-Flight, which started developing solutions for drones and services to drones many years ago now, when the expression U-Space itself did not exist yet. We used to talk about UTM, unmanned traffic management. And we also have TechnoSky, which is our main manufacturer, but they started developing an interesting dimension as UAS operator. And we also have IDS or NAV, which develop software solutions for ATM, so they also cover that side of the coin. So basically, as a holding, we do encompass all the perspectives which may be useful in developing a vision. And our vision, as Yuri asked, is that we definitely have to progress towards integration of operations between manned and unmanned traffic, because they're all users of the same scenario, the same sky, so to say, and that this will be possible by integrating services. So our vision is that the integration of services will accompany the integration of operations towards a world where the problem will not be anymore how to have these two separate worlds live together, but actually is going to be integrating these two worlds in a single one.
Thank you, and I think ENAV is in a very good position to state that with respect to the type of expertise that you have under the wing of ENAV. Okay, thank you. Gianpaolo. Okay. Maybe.
Does it work? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Okay. Future of mobility. So what is today mobility? We can say that it's congested. It's there are fatalities. It has an increasing cost, and it has non-negligible impact on the environment. This is the today mobility. What is the mobility that we foresee for the future? We want to see mobility which is safe, which is efficient, economic, and more environmentally friendly. So that's where we want to go. What are the enabling technology in order to have this transition? For sure, we have electrification. We have connectivity between vehicles. We need that. And we need autonomy in order to make the whole system working in a more efficient way. And where do the drone come into play in this mobility picture? Drone will be a part of the mobility in the future, for sure. We at Leonardo, we are developing many projects, but especially we have one specific project on logistic, on delivery, which is not last mile logistic, but we are looking into like a middle mile logistic, which means basically transporting heavy payload, more than 25 kilos over large distance, more than 25 kilometers. So this is the logistic domain we are looking at. And how do we think this can impact on mobility? What is the benefit? So we think that this can have a positive impact on the congestion of traffic. So we are looking in urban domain, moving large payloads, so offloading the part of the traffic which is nowadays on the road network, and using the third dimension, which is the sky. We are in partnership with Poste Italiane, who is the major logistic player in Italy. We have a project with them on middle mile delivery, and we are in an experimental phase. We are pulling out several demonstrations in urban area, especially in Turin. We are studying the problem, and we think that we can have an impact on the congestion of future traffic, so we can improve the life of people.
Okay, thank you. Very, very wide and very, I would say, holistic state of mind. The way I would expect a small company like Leonardo to have. I see Matteo is still with us. Matteo, how do you and team see the future with respect to future mobility?
First of all, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, as probably all of you know, we are a telco operator, an ISP.
That's why we don't hear him so well.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, perfect. So we are focused on the new mobile network generations. And we think that this kind of technology will help us to create an ecosystem of innovative solution for mobility. For this reason, we are, let me say, leading the 5G technology innovation. And to achieve this role, TIM won the best frequencies available in Italy. Of course, with the aim to develop the 5G network service in the whole country, but also to develop the main new asset for the new potential business. We've already reached more than 90% of 5G network coverage in some cities such as Milan, and obviously the 5G service is already available in many other cities for both consumer and enterprise customer with a speed up to 2 gigabit per second. We are talking about Rome, Turin, Florence, Bari, and any other city that is the core of Italian industry and tourism. And we are still working to gradually improve the 5G coverage in the whole country. So why, let me say, why is TIM focused on this kind of technology? Well, the 5G is the first mobile network standard that was designed not only to improve the speed of your mobile connection. It is designed to be used in any industry as an enabler of a new set of wireless solutions, especially for mobility, let me say. This technology ensures optimal mobile performances characterized by high speed, ultra low latency, the possibility to connect a huge amount of devices, and to ensure connectivity motion up to 500 kilometers per hour. So exploiting all of these features, and of course the possibility to generate an ever-increasing amount of data, we believe that it is possible to have a part, let me say, in the evolution of the digital society in any kind of industry, from tourism, entertainment, and of course to, let me say, smart city and smart mobilities. So we are working in the creation, together with other companies, of course, of a new ecosystem of digital solutions for the future of mobility and of smart city. Not only, let me say, to enhance the value of the city, such as giving the possibility to live a cultural event through augmented or virtual reality, but also providing to both local and central government important tools and solutions to, let me say, for a more efficient and sustainable city and mobility management.
Okay. No, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I heard some noise. So let me say the 5G is a powerful enabler. An example could be, as we already said, the possibility to remote pilot a drone. And this possibility enables a new set of possible solutions, such as drone delivery, so the possibility to use drones for security reasons. We've already realized some offer in which a drone equipped with a laser scan connected by 5G is able to create a in a near real time, let me say, a 3D model of an infrastructure in order to improve the maintenance activities and to analyze the infrastructure conditions. So for all of these reasons, we believe that the future of mobility is strictly related to the evolution of the new mobile network generations.
Okay. Yeah, definitely an enabler. Okay, thank you, Matteo. Peter, what's your take on that?
Thanks, Yuri. Do I need to press anything? Or just, there we go, it will tune in. Yeah, really interesting points from everybody on the panel so far, and I guess building on a key theme from Matteo about kind of connectivity. And I guess for me, the future of mobility is telecommunications are an enabler of future mobility, but also there's another type of connectivity which is kind of intrinsic to mobility itself, and that's connecting people and places with the goods and services that they need. And with the kind of growing global population that we have and challenges with climate change and the march towards net zero, maintaining that connectivity without adapting and adopting new technologies is going to become increasingly challenging. The aviation industry is one that we all love, and it has been so important for connecting people and goods around the world, bringing together what can sometimes be a fractious, global society closer together. So it'd be really, a missed opportunity to harness the new technologies that are available to keep that connection that we have with different cultures, with different economies, and the opportunities that provides. At Skyports, our kind of mission is to solve complex logistical and operational challenges using unmanned systems. And for us, that is kind of intrinsic to the future of mobility, because there is this untapped space above our heads, and there is new technology which can continue to bring, people together using net zero, low carbon technologies, using eVTOLs and their ability to move goods around using low carbon technologies, drones. But also the future of mobility is about using drones to optimize the way in which we manage processes and the way in which we manage societies as well. So some of the demonstrations that we saw yesterday were fascinating, and some of the kind of different use cases for drones that are available in the market. One of which actually is very excites me personally, and that's using drones to create digital twins. And actually, in turn, these digital twins can be used to create smart, to feed into smart city models, and that actually can benefit mobility as a whole as well. So, ground-based mobility by finding efficiencies and tying in, IoT data and creating that kind of that holistic ecosystem as well. So, rather than just looking at, drones and eVTOL as the kind of way of moving people and goods around, actually looking at the unmanned vehicles as an enabler of the wider kind of future of mobility as well.
Perfect. Antonio.
Okay. Thank you so much for the invitation. So, talk about mobility is more complicated. It's more complicated because typically when we talk with our friends, with other people about mobility, we are thinking that we have to move to one place to the other place only of a city. But this is correct, but it is not true at the same time, because mobility has changed so much in the last 15 years, thanks probably to digital technologies, I can say, because digital technologies change a lot the mobility in the last year. When I talk about digital technologies, I mean in particular technology, exponential technology, so IoT, 5G, in artificial intelligence, and so on. Why this? Because they are changing also the business model of mobility. Not only the mobility that I said before, move myself in another point, but the business model. And this is really important. This is really important because if we are thinking about this technology, we have to say that we have more connected vehicle, autonomous vehicle on the rise. We have more data to collect, yes, absolutely. But also the behavior of people are changing so much thanks to digital. Okay, and the last, but personally, I think the most important for us is that we are moving from sharing mobility to mobility as a service. Okay, so this is the idea that we have in our company of mobility. We are moving in digital twin, in the building of urban digital twin, where we are able to manage all the aspects of a town, of a city, from citizen and also infrastructure and so on. And I think that we have also some benefit, not only for us, but also for people, for citizens, for municipalities that has a lot of data about the city. So create an urban digital twin means to transform every asset of the city in information that can we manage and can we collect and analyze to produce a new scenario and so on. So this is our vision.
Okay, I think it's fascinating, and we were talking a lot of digitization and connectivity, and there's a lot of requirements flying around here in this on this stage in order to implement eventually the technology. And so before we dig into a deeper layer, I would like to first of all kind of shoot the question to the air. Mainly to Gianpaolo, because I wonder how did you manage to build this list of requirements that eventually leads to developing the technologies? And obviously there are other stakeholders in that loop. It's not only in this specific example Leonardo, but also other stakeholders. But I wonder if you can share with us just a little bit about the process of building the requirements for future mobility. Why is it like this and not differently?
Yes, requirements are important. It's a requirement elicitation problem, typical of system engineering approach or system engineering. Requirement elicitation, how we deal with this in Leonardo, it's we basically have stakeholder in the loop. So we need to have customer to draw requirement. We need to have users to draft requirements, and many stakeholders. So we have all those pieces in place to draft the requirement of logistic delivery with drone. So we, as I said before, we have Poste Italiane in the loop. If we really want to be serious with logistic, we need to have a logistic player,
like a design partner. Yeah.
Yeah, in the design phase. We have them. We are pulling out experimental activities at their place, at their home. So in the real logistic environment, we have done experimentation in Turin last December. And with them, to have the system in the environment with the logistic people in the loop of using the system to load, to unload boxes. We are noting, we are drafting all the requirement set up. So it's a process. Mm-hmm. We are in the middle of it. We have another project which we are dealing with HMI, interface to drones, and for that we have gathered several users using interfaces, and from that we draft requirement of future fleet management system, for instance. So that's how we deal with it.
So it's not different from any other technological or engineering project. You get the requirements and then you build the technology accordingly. I'm asking this because we're talking about something which is revolutionary. I mean, the future mobility is something revolutionary. So it takes, I think, additional stakeholders in the process. And so let's touch in one of them, which is the regulator. Regulators were a huge subject here in this event, and many others. And I think it would be fair to say that normally regulators move slower than companies. Companies, we would like to run fast to the market, deliver, generate revenues. It's not exactly the main interest of the regulator sometimes. So there's a gap here which create difficulties. And I also think that maybe I should exclude the example that we've heard yesterday here in the panel from Ofer Lapid from the Israeli Innovation Authority, where the project is running very fast, thanks to the fact that the regulator is really involved in the process. But I think it's a kind of a unique example for that. And I think that the greatest impact may be on small companies. When we come to an event, when you need the regulator in the loop, but you don't have the resources and the time to allocate to that if you're a startup. So luckily, we have here in the panel both ends, I would say, of the, we have large companies and a startup. So Peter, let's start with you. If you can share with us a little bit about your company's experience in interface with regulators, maybe in different territories, if you have a couple of examples for that, and how does it affect your day-to-day operation as a startup, as a small company?
Yeah, so we've kind of learned the hard way, I guess. We founded in a country in the UK where and wanting to specialize in beyond visual line of sight drone operations in a territory where you're not allowed to do beyond visual line of sight drone operations. So we kind of started running uphill rather than trying to do things the easy way. And this was great initially because we were able to land some innovation projects. We were able to get temporary danger area approvals, but these only last for 3-month period, so you can't commercialize operations in that sense. We, despite being kind of a relatively small team, we prioritized investing in our team in the regulatory resource space. So we actually have we have a team of 4 in our regulatory team. Which is like over 10% of our whole team on the drone service side, and we those team members have come from the Hong Kong Civil Aviation Authority, the Singapore Civil Aviation Authority, UK Civil Aviation Authority, and also a pilot. He's actually still an active pilot for Virgin. He heads up our safety and compliance. So bringing in that manned aviation experience as well to kind of gain credibility with the regulators. So we've invested heavily in that space. so that we can really build credibility, rather than kind of working against regulators and banging kind of our hands on the door. We've got people who really understand that process inside out, and one of the things that they've done, because the UK and Europe is, a relatively hard market for getting these types of approvals, what we have done is conducted a global research project, identifying running through the regulations of basically all of the markets in the world, and created a beyond visual line of sight priority list, creating a kind of prioritization of countries where either BVLOS is possible, you can get approvals instantly, where the regulation is yet to be kind of written,
in place,
and you have an opportunity there to actually work with the regulators to kind of write the rule book essentially, and then also looking for opportunities in countries where there are test beds, like here in Bari, in Denmark, with Larsen, who was on stage earlier. And using those opportunities internationally and the project work we're doing in the UK to constantly build the safety case, constantly collect data, and constantly have a direct line in with the Civil Aviation Authority, both in the UK or other territories that we're interested in, to have this kind of continuous feedback, this continuous loop of
recording in progress
and what's not, so that they understand the data that points that they should be looking at, because this is a new space. And I think the other final closing mark on it would be move fast as you can, because what we have found is that often, the timelines for getting these approvals can be quite lengthy, and you want to make sure you're dealing with the same people. Otherwise,
once they change, you start over.
Otherwise, often you get setbacks. You have to start over again. So, I guess that's something else we've learned from that.
So you actually say we are leveraging on the low-hanging fruits where we can go very fast, collect data, analyze it, improve our visuality to regulators, so then that they can trust us, so we can...
Exactly. So, look at projects, you want them to be commercially viable, but also, kind of identify the stepping stones, identify opportunities for learnings, and identify opportunities for collecting data to take back and improve where it is you want to be operating.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Alberto, I would like to ask you the same question, because you have a kind of a unique position with respect to having in both worlds, manned and unmanned, and being kind of in the middle. So what is your take in promoting projects and with dealing with the regulator?
This is an interesting one. I see Monish in the audience. I remember from his panel yesterday, at a certain point it was mentioned that sometimes industry and regulators are perceived as enemies, which is a strong word, but it's true. It gives the picture. It gives us the picture.
Different interests.
Yeah. But let me say, this is not 100% wrong. It is definitely a good thing that regulators and industry do not go at the same speed, because they're driven by different, perspectives and different reasons. So it's good the regulators play their role the right way.
Yeah.
At the same time, of course, regulation is the key enabler, and this is becoming more and more true in a world which is tending towards harmonization at continental level. We now have Europe playing a huge role in whatever we do in our everyday life. It's no more a domestic issue,
right.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
And basically, as a service provider, of course, we do operate within the given regulatory framework. We apply the rules that we have now. But at the same time, we are part of all the processes of evolving these regulations. And as you mentioned, this is both a national and European level. We are in a sort of peculiar position, so to say, because we have kind of a third-party perspective. We are not the industry. Of course, we are interested in looking at the industry, making progress and developing new ways and increasing the business. But at the same time, we are there to provide services to that business. It's not our business in the first place. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, we do have expertise and knowledge which resembles and somehow even tops in some ways what is in the course of the regulator, because we do have the field experience. So we are in a kind of position which can be crucial for the evolution of the system. And I have to say, in my experience, UK has an excellent tradition in the aviation business of cooperation and partnership between the authority and the service provider. I've always seen CAA and NATS going together and talking a lot and promoting the same views. I have to say that in Italy, we're not far from there. We work a lot with ENAC. They're very busy and involved in developing new things, and what we are doing here is a proof of that. And we work a lot with them in that direction. So yes, I would agree with what you mentioned, that service providers can be really, can make the difference in this topic.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. I would like to kind of touch another side of this of the regulation from another aspect of the development of the technologies, and this is the experiments or the testing of this technology. Obviously, an integral and a critical part in every development process. But when we are talking about, and I would say even more than that, it's a critical part of the development process. And we would like, as companies that develop technologies, to be as realistic as possible for us to kind of shorten the way to the market. And especially when we're talking about future mobility and urban or integrating into the urban environment. And so if we would like to make that realistic, then we're talking about allocating, portion of the city in order to test the technology. And this is where we meet another player, which is the municipalities, not only the regulator. And so we're sitting here in Fiera del Levante, which is part of the city of Bari, of course, which was allocated by the city. And we've heard Vice Mayor Di Sciascio this morning talking about the commitment of the city of Bari in promoting experiments and future mobility. But I would say that not every city is the same with respect to that. So experimental. Another thing that worth mentioning is that this event last year took place in Grottaglia Airport, which is another facility for testing drones, and also the DTA has a part in that as well. And so when you come to make to test the technology and to make experiments, and you face the municipalities, what is your experience with that related to smart mobility? So Matteo, can you still hear us?
Yes.
So what is your experience with team in being involved in experiments in an urban environment?
Well, let me say, first of all, we are working on many innovative solutions for the future of mobility, and this thanks to our innovation department, but also to our internal factories. And we understood that for some of these solutions, it is quite easy, let me say, to identify potential benefits and risks through an analysis of this scenario. On the other hand, there are other solutions that requires or may require additional assessment and the necessity to test the effectiveness and the safety of the solution for citizens. So we believe that any of this project that is characterized by an experimental infrastructure is really important, as it allows to have the opportunity not only to test the solution, but also to cooperate with other companies and other partners to create more complex and end-to-end scenarios. And to bring, let me say, values. And of course, in this kind of scenario, a central role is played by the municipality. And in general, we try to reach the needs of the municipality in order to adapt this kind of solution based on what is required, based on the specific needs. So let me say, just to give you an example about some solution.
Five, four.
In which, sorry?
No, please. I just counted down.
Okay.
For the communication.
Okay. The mobility as a service, which allow to plan, book, and buy different mobility services using a unique digital channel. And I'm talking about any kind of mobility services, bus, trains, airplane, and of course, car sharing, carpooling, bike sharing, and so on. For this kind of project, it is quite easy to understand which is the benefit of this solution and the risks of this solution. But I think that this kind of technology must be personalized, let me say, on the needs of the city, of course. On the other hand, there are other solutions for mobility, such as the smart road solution, which allow to connect roads, vehicles, pedestrian, traffic light, anything, to a central platform, which is able to collect information from any object of the ecosystem and to create alerts, for example, to autonomous and assisted guided vehicles. And again, in this kind of scenario, it is a must, let me say, to test, especially for safety reason, this kind of solution before a large commercial phase, let me say. And in this kind of scenario, we joined a lot of projects, of course, and this project were necessary to understand, as I said, benefit and the risk. But I think that an important role, again, is played by the municipality, because any of these solutions must be customized on the real needs of the municipality, of course.
Okay, maybe it sounds like it's quite easy for team to experiment in an urban environment, and maybe the reason is that cellular network is important to run applications. So it's important to everybody, not necessarily to smart mobility. So you don't have to fly drones; you just improve the network. So everybody's TikTok run faster. So it's beneficial for everybody. Thank you, Matteo. Antonio, what is your experience with experimenting in urban environment?
Yes, as you said before, we are a technological company, we are a system integrator. So this means that we are not infrastructure maker and so on, but we are able to connect a lot of technology to create a digital solution. So this means for us it's really important to have this, and we are lucky, in example, here in Bari in the Innovation Lab, where we can test, in example, solution about mobility, autonomous vehicles, and so on. But if we don't have it, there is no business, I can say. Absolutely. So it's really, really important for us.
Yeah. Gianpaolo, you told me this morning about the experiment that you're about to run shortly. So you have another municipality other than Bari to extract that. What is your experience with dealing with the municipalities, their willingness to promote this kind of activities? How do they consider it? Is it important, not important? Do you find a friend there, or is it something that you have to dig very, very strongly in order to get the approvals that is required?
We found a lot of friends. We found a lot of friends. We have a lot of support in Turin, where we are placing the experimentation. We have local police, municipality, actively participating and helping us out in the experimental phase. So we have good collaboration with them. And urban environment is a complex environment, is very feature-rich environment, and you can learn a lot just putting a drone in that environment. So as soon as you start to dig into the problem, you have to cross bridges. You have to build a corridor in a vulnerable environment in a smart way, in a safe way.
Fly next to hospitals.
Fly next to hospitals. So in big cities there are hospitals, and then you have HEMS operation. You have emergency operation with a real helicopter, and then you start to when you bring your problem. I want to fly a drone there. We have to pull out this mission, and then at the first sight you see, okay, so you are disturbing our activity. It's a disturbing element, and at first sight they have a hard time to understand why you want to do that. But as soon as you start to explain, you start to making them understand, okay, look, in 6 months or 1 year from now, this technology could be very, very helpful, even for emergency service. You can deliver a defibrillator, you can deliver blood sample in a fast way. So as soon as you start to communicate, then you start to see the collaboration. And you find there are problems, because integrating such a machine in an urban environment, it is a problem. But they are not impossible to solve. There is a way out. And then when you talk to them, then you find solutions. So
okay.
That's our experience.
Okay, thank you. But what I hear from you guys is that you still need to negotiate. I mean, you have to convince them, the municipality or other entities in the city, and negotiate, in order to execute what you would like to do. So I would say that with that respect, the interest, the global interest of promoting the future mobility is not yet on the ground for everybody, and we still have to struggle in order to promote not only with the regulator but also with local authorities and local
acceptance.
Yeah, now let's talk about that.
That's the topic. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about public acceptance again. Another topic that was covered widely also yesterday, and at least the image I got from yesterday's sessions is that public acceptance is kind of not an issue. Because the public is willing to accept, drones in the urban environment for deliveries, for especially for emergency situations. But I think that eventually, when you actually fly above the city, then things are different than the polls and the surveys that are being made all the time, and with that respect, I think that public acceptance is very important, and I wonder, and I want to ask you, if you take this this issue, as a parameter in your development process. Is it something that you take into account? Is it something that you proactively do in order to promote it, in order to reduce the rejection, in order to negotiate, as you mentioned, with the hospital, but try to do it as an inherent part of the development process?
It's yes, it is part of the in all our experimentation. We have a social acceptance sub-project. So we are doing a survey on social media. And we are really monitoring every time we pull out some experimentation and it goes public, and then we monitor the feeling. And we think that public acceptance is a communication problem. It's a communication as a purpose. So that's what it is. you have to really understand that you have to communicate, and then you have to give a purpose on what you do, and then people start to understand. If you don't give purpose and you do not communicate, then you don't get acceptance of what you're doing. So they just see you as a disturbing element.
Yeah.
You know, and we have done some experience. We've done quite a few experimentation. We've been flying in Lazio region for medical delivery experiment a year and a half ago on the Bambin Gesù Hospital. So we were delivering some experimental samples between hospitals, and 30 kilometers away along the coast, flying from one hospital to the other, and then we had to, when we had to land at the second hospital, so we had to cross the beach and then land to the hospital, because the hospital was right on the beach. And then what we had to do, we had to block the beach, because when the drone was passing, you had to,
Yeah, it happened here yesterday, right? At the
demonstration.
demonstration.
You have to block people, and then say, okay, the drone is passing. We have an experimental project. You have to stop. You have to, and then we really got bad reaction from people. Why am
disturbing us?
I want to walk on a beach. So what is this drone doing here? And they really bad reaction. And then we were getting a problem. And then when we start to explain to them, look, this is an experimental program with the hospital, so we are trying to, accelerating the way of delivering blood samples for analysis, and then we start to explain that this one day your child can benefit from this, and then you immediately
see a different reaction.
Yeah, immediately we got a very, very so huge interest from them. They were stopping and looking at that. And they say, this is nice, and they understood.
So
there's a purpose.
It's a kind of an educational or PR issue for you. So if you take it into consideration in advance, then you can reduce dramatically the amount of antagonism comes from public, because they understand it's actually for them. Thank you, Peter. Say you have. With vertiports, you have a very large friction with the public, because you actually build something, in the cities or on top of buildings, at least in the concept. So, what is your take on that with respect to public acceptance? Is it part of your ongoing operation as a developer?
So, on the vertiport side of the business, I think it's still at a stage where the eVTOL space and the concept of vertiports are really kind of just getting through into the general public. We're still not at a point where there's type certification for the aircraft themselves. So there hasn't kind of been at this stage, large consultations that we're going to be flying from A to B over a congested area. So I think it's probably slightly premature on the eVTOL and vertiport side of the business to gauge precisely what that's going to be. Where we have developed or are developing vertiports at the moment, the reception has been positive. So we're just north of Paris. We're building a vertiport for the Paris Olympic Games in 2024. This is a showpiece of new technology, and it's all about developing, the public interest in it. So it's the start of that journey to demonstrate the capabilities, the benefits it's going to bring to people's lives. So I think from that perspective, it's been quite positive, but we're not at a stage like we are in the drone business at the moment, where we're saying, okay, next week we're going to be flying over your heads with a biological cargo. How do you feel about that? So I think the work we're doing on the vertiport business at the moment, in terms of actually building these, first vertiports, building prototypes, targeting projects like the one in Singapore, where we developing a vertiport for touristic purposes to begin with. This is kind of really just nudging the general public's interest and understanding of what this new technology is.
Okay.
If just to say a comment quickly on the drone service side, yeah, just to echo exactly what Gianpaolo's experience, particularly on the medical delivery side, we with the work that we did in Scotland, initial reactions were it's a more remote location, so it's a less tricky environment.
More sheep than people.
Yeah, more sheep. One of the main challenges actually was sheep and cows chewing through our communications boxes. So this was something our colleagues had to overcome. But as soon as people recognised that the purpose of the flights was for fighting COVID, then generally people were very supportive. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's something that should be taken into consideration. Once you take it, then it reduces the rejection dramatically. That makes sense. I want to ask you, because we touched a few points, so peripheral points for the development, and we're talking a lot about future mobility. It's not a new subject. We're talking about it for a few years now. So, and obviously there are still some difficulties that some of them were mentioned in this panel. But now I would like to ask you, okay, so how far are we? I mean, what is the difference today with experimenting with building the technologies and to introduce them to the public, comparing to where it was like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago? Is it easier to operate today, or is it still a struggle the same way? How far are we? And I would also like to add to that, if you can refer to what's left. I mean, with respect to technology development, what's the next steps that each one of you are working on in order to bring this revolution to life? So let's start with you, Alberto, please.
Yeah, okay. First of all, please allow me to say that when I listen to Gianpaolo talking, it all sounds very familiar. We do work a lot together because, for those who don't know it, although it's a small company, Leonardo is industrial partner in the flight as well. So we do have the industry on board as well. And this brings us back to what I said at the very beginning about this 360 degrees vision that we try to put into the system. And one very good example of that, coming to your question, is what we are doing right now. You've seen some flight demonstrations here in this last days. Something will happen today, I hope, if the weather is favorable. And we are quite close to an airport. Bari Airport, which is an international airport, is not far from here. It is definitely not far from here from an aeronautical point of view. It's a very short distance. And all these activities under the current regulatory framework have an impact on manned aviation operations at Bari. But they could take place, and you didn't see on TV or read on newspapers people complaining about the fact that their flights had been delayed. How did we do that? We started implementing levels of services. And what we did is to establish, I don't know if it's the first one anywhere, but for sure it's among the first ones around, an ops room for UTM services, which is going to be, an ops room for U-Space, any whatever you want to call it, it's services to unmanned traffic. And we did it right within a current ops room, which is the Rome Central Briefing Office, which in 2 words is the place where air traffic services interface with pilots and operators. So people who were coordinating these drone operations here with legacy manned traffic operations in Bari were sitting next to another colleague of mine who was at the same time talking to a pilot or to an airline operator. So we're actually doing it in the same ops room. And it's our vision indeed. And of course, yes, technology is going to play a paramount role. That's That's for sure. And this is going to be in the medium and long term for sure. And even the U-Space European regulatory package on U-Space, it's evidently all technology oriented. They foresee a world where this data travel in real time among all the stakeholders. Everybody has the full picture at any time, and everybody acts accordingly. This is most probably how it is going to be, because we are fully aware that the legacy way of providing services to manned traffic is not one-to-one replicable in the unmanned world. It's a different thing. They're flying objects, but they fly low, they fly slow, or most of them, not all of them. They don't have a pilot on board. They perform operations which are significantly different from those of manned aviation. And so you cannot imagine having a controller sitting in front of a screen and, you know, assigning heading or levels and handling traffic as we do with manned traffic. We still do with manned traffic, even if technology is very strong in ATM as well. But we are really convinced that before we get there, human in the loop is a significant contribution to move forward. There's a lot of technology in the system already, but the system as a whole is not technologically ready for that long-term vision. So we can achieve a significant level of capacity by keeping human operators in the loop already. And so what we do with this sort of organization allows for making important steps into having a significant number of operations, possibly simultaneous operations, as we saw here, operations integrated with ATM services and manned traffic, and we're doing a lot in that direction. We know that the role of humans will change in the medium and long term, but right now we are going there through applying things that we know very well from our working experience in legacy aviation.
Yeah. That's very bad news for a drone event, but yeah, thank you. I think we run out of time, so just a very quick reference from you, please, Antonio. What's the difference today comparing to, let's say, 4 years ago, and what's left ahead? Quite shortly, please.
Okay, there are a lot of change. I totally agree with him, because he said that technology has changed. As I said before, this is the key factor of this change. But I have to say another thing that I want to stress, that is needed to cooperate. Is needed to cooperate between all the actors of this job, because it's really important for many reasons. The first one is that company typically don't have all the knowledge about technologies inside. So this means that have to look behind, have to look to the external idea, in example of startup, but also university, technology partner, and so on, to move in this direction. An example, we are using an open innovation model where we are using two different kind of communication with the partner, the inside out and outside in flow. They are very particular, because we typically, with outside-in flow, we are able to get knowledge from the partner and to channeling them inside our company. But in the reverse flow, we are able to understand, in example, a needs from a customer, and we are able to communicate with our partner and to find the right solution to the problem.
So it's easier today than 4 years ago?
Yes, today is really.
I'm looking for good news to end this session.
And I hope also in the future. And I hope.
Okay, thank you very much. So we ran out of time, even though we have a few more issues that I wanted to explore about the competition between large companies and startups, and in this ecosystem, the word that everybody is trying to avoid to use. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Obviously, there's much work ahead ahead of us in order to fulfill or to make it happen, everything. But that's also good news because we all have jobs, right, for the next 3 years. I'd like to thank the distinguished panelists that are on stage here, and also you, Matteo, thank you for joining us and took the time to do that. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.